you're going to get a tattoo,
What are you doing?
Michael Malone is north of 50.
What are you doing? Getting a tattoo of Maxie the Miner?
Yeah.
I mean, you know, he's going to wake up in about a month and a half and look in the mirror and go, what am I doing? What am I doing? I don't know.
Well,
welcome to PTI, boys and girls.
You and me.
You and me. We're smart. In today's episode, the Rangers are furious. Victor Wembanyama enters the spotlight, and Jay Billis joins us for 5 good minutes on the NBA draft. But we begin today with a trade brewing in the NBA. The Athletic reports that the Washington Wizards are in talks to send Kristaps Porzingis to the Celtics. The Celtics, in turn, would send Malcolm Brogdon to the Clippers, and the Clippers would send Marcus Morris to Washington. The Wizards would also get draft compensation, whatever that is. Wilbon, who gets the best end of this deal?
Nobody. I don't really understand it necessarily, the moving pieces. Look, I like Malcolm Brogdon. We've established that over the years, and I think the Clippers need Malcolm Brogdon. It means Chris Paul wouldn't be going there, but the Clippers sort of need what Malcolm Brogdon does. And I thought Malcolm Brogdon was pretty good for the Celtics, and I don't blame him for their turnover parade at the end of games. I blame Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum because they had the ball, and Marcus Smart and Brogdon would have been better off with it in a lot of cases in making those decisions, to me. And Porzingis, who I like on certain teams, the Celtics get bigger, but what does that mean for Rob Williams? And are they giving up on him? And what's the next move? Where does the shoe fall next? Tony, I don't get this. It's cool. It's cool to talk about, and maybe somebody will benefit from it in a way that I'm not smart enough to see. But right now, I'm just scratching my head.
Yeah, I think Porzingis can get 25 points in this league every single night. I think he makes the Celtics better. I think he brings them closer to a championship. I really do.
Wow.
I mean, I think he's been around a lot of teams, so there's a sense of devaluing him because what's he ever won? But I think on a good team like that, he can be something very important. Obviously, in my local team, the Wizards just gave away Bradley Beal about 48 hours ago. They have now given away Porzingis. They get nothing back. Kuzma's going to leave as a free agent. They're headed to the bottom, Mike. They are a 25-win team at best, and the new GM, Michael Winger, has worked with Ted Leonsis and convinced Ted Leonsis, stop treading water. You're killing this team. Go down to the bottom, right?
Yeah, they got rid of $90 million.
Good.
$90 million is what they're saving, or almost, with those two guys, with Beal and Porzingis. Man, you got a high opinion of Porzingis.
They only won 33 with him, so now they can win 22 without him.
This deal is fun. People are going to have a big range of opinions on these. LeBron James and Yao Ming. Because Yao Ming, there was international interest. Patrick Ewing, my man. Nobody knew outside the I-95 corridor where he grew up in Boston, in suburban Boston, and where he, played in Washington. That's great. New York he landed in. This ain't that. Victor Wembanyama, Tony, the expectations and the hype and the anticipation, there's never seen anything like it. And if you just listen to LeBron James, who looked at him, and I asked LeBron, what do you think of him? And LeBron said, you know how they're unicorns? This is beyond that. He's an alien. And Kevin Durant said, the league is in trouble when this kid arrives. Come on. These are two guys who understand greatness and know what it is. And for them to assess it that way says a lot to me, says everything to me.
There's more pressure on a big man being chosen overall #1 than there is on a small man being chosen overall #1. We'll go back to Alcindor, who became Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Fabulously successful, 6 rings. That's 4 more than Wilt Chamberlain, who had 2. He had the scoring record of all time until LeBron broke it. Shaq had 4 rings. Olajuwon had 4 rings. Walton had 4 rings. Not everybody does. Ewing had no rings. Yao Ming had no rings. Ralph Sampson, who was a dominant player in college, was not a dominant player in the pros.
No,
and his body type is more alike with Wembanyama's than anybody else. In recent years, you have international players playing this position. Jokic, Embiid, and Antetokounmpo. I think that Wembanyama is under more pressure. The expectation is he will win multiple titles because he was #1.
Yeah.
None of those guys was the overall #1. None of them.
Right.
And I think you make your mark on defense, Mike. I expect scoring from him, but I think it's going to be rebounding and block shots and defense in the middle of the action to separate him from others. And I don't know. I think the jury's still out because he's a kid. He's a kid.
Well, the jury's going to be out. And Tony, San Antonio didn't have a team. And by the way, that part is important. I don't know that you mentioned Tim Duncan, but Tony, going
because
to
I don't
San
think of him
Antonio
as a
seems
center.
to be okay, but it seems to be the right laboratory. You know, he's going to a place where, you know, he's going to get all the benefit of knowledge and wisdom. And
It's me. I keep looking for something that's wrong with this guy, and there's nothing wrong with him. He's not even lactose intolerant or anything. There's nothing. He's the best prospect since LeBron, and there's never been anybody quite like him on a basketball floor. At 7'4", with all the things that he can do. And he's perhaps more impactful on the defensive end than he is on the offensive end. He's incredibly impactful there. His frame, there it is in the back of your mind, durability and you know, is he too thin or something like that? But he's never had any injury problems. We had the same concerns about Kevin Durant when he came out of Texas in 2007. Remember when, you know, he couldn't bench press 185 pounds at the combine even one time. We were all like, oh my God, what's going to happen? They don't have bench press contests. He's been an all-time great. And absent an injury, and that's the only thing that can derail this Wembanyama train to the Hall of Fame, I don't have any concerns about him. He's that good.
Amen. And we could talk about Wembanyama for the whole segment, but we're going to move to some other stuff like, oh, wait, the second best guy maybe, Scoot Henderson. Jay, do you think Scoot Henderson, is he the second guy on your board, if there is such a thing? And just when you look at him, what do you see?
It was a two-horse race for the second pick for me with Brandon Miller of Alabama and Scoot Henderson of the G League. And Henderson reminds me of Russell Westbrook at the same age. I'm not saying he's going to be Russell Westbrook. I'm saying at the same age, their profiles compare very favorably. Henderson played 2 years in the G League. And his numbers, his offensive rating, his assist totals, rebound totals were better than Jalen Green's when he played in the G League. And Green was the number 2 overall pick in the draft a couple years ago. He's really dynamic. He's only 6'2", 6'3", but his arms are like of a 6'9" guy. And he can get to the rim and finish. He's a great playmaker for himself and for others. Really good vision as a passer. He hadn't figured out the shooting piece yet. He's not a consistent shooter from three or from the free throw line. Miller is the better shooter, and I tend to think that Miller is going to go number 2 to Charlotte because of that factor in a league that values shooting as much as the NBA does. Miller's bigger, he's super athletic, and he's a much better perimeter shooter.
Jay, I want to go back. I can't.